I'm Mike Kelly from Omaha Project Healing Waters. And tonight we're going to have a tie-off between Mick Bretz, the program lead for the uh, St. Louis um, Healing Waters program. And we'll both be tying a gurgler. So Mick, we'll start with you and take it as far as you want.
All right. So I'm using a streamer hook. There's going to be enough foam on this that I don't really have to worry about it holding it down. But I think that's a 3X long streamer hook. The TMC 300 is the call out for it. But any streamer hook straight, you could see how Mike and I both have basically the same hook will work. I'm using thicker, I think I'm actually changing mine up a little bit. No. Thread, I'm going to use black. It's just a very thicker thread. That way I can crank a little bit on the foam. So I'm just going to start with a thread base. I'm actually starting mid shank on that. And I'm just going to get a base down there. I'm going to take that to the bend of the hook and then bring it back a little bit. So the first material I'm going to put on is I'm going to put a loop on the back with monofilament. And what I'm going to use is Amnesia 20-pound monofilament. And this loop is there to try to prevent some of the tail material when you're casting. It'll kind of prop it up and it won't get into the hook and curl up on you. So you're just going to take I'd say 8 inches. That's probably way more than what you need, but I don't want to try to be fighting it if I make it too small. So you can kind of see what I'm doing is I'm going to be putting in a loop. And call that good. That looks good. I'm going to hold that in place. That looks good. What I'm going to do is try to make sure that this monofilament doesn't slip out. I'll bring my thread back to the midpoint. I'm going to fold it over and then tie it in that way. Put off this excess. Now don't worry too much about how clumpy, that body will look. I use some cactus chenille later on that will make that look pretty good. So now I'm going to continue working on the tail, and next part is I'm going to be using some bucktail. First color that I will be using will be white. I'm just going to clip off just a very small clump of that. So if you kind of see, got a little bit of a tail, that might be a little bit too much. So I'm going to kind of want it a little bit scarce. But what I'm going to measure is I'm looking for probably the length of the hook. I want to have it extend out a little bit. So I'm just going to measure that out. Tie that in. That looks good. Just gonna wrap that in. Sure that looks good. Okay, so now what I want to do is just make sure that looks good. I'm going to add some flash. So I've got some pearl flash here. And I'm just gonna take one strand off this, because that's all I'll need. What I will do is fold it over 4 times. We'll have to try to bring this out so you kind of see. Fold it once, twice. I will pin it onto the fly.
That's crystal flash.
Crystal flash. I'm bringing it so you can kind of see it a little bit better. Now I'm just going to kind of cut the loops that I have in there from where I doubled it up. So now it had a little bit of nice flash in there. Now I'm going to add
You're so welcome. Have a good night. You too.
one more type of neat color, and I'm going to use some thin mylar now.
Okay, so I can do that one. That one I can do. I got the buck white. And I got the crystal flash.
Yep, and if there's anything you could substitute, again, this is your fly, and that's the one thing I always try. If you don't have the material, there's so many different substitutions you can do.
I apologize for coming in late. What size of hook was that, please?
I'm using a size 8. It might be a little bit big for a bluegill, but for tying purposes, it's a little bit easier to see. But if you go down to a 10 or 12, that should work.
Okay. I got 6s. Yeah.
And if you call it a 6, you know what? It's just a good largemouth bass bug then. Very
Okay.
easy.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you are welcome. So one more material. I'm going to have some green bucktail, because mine's going to end up looking like, hopefully, a frog after all this is done. Now, we were talking earlier, one of the materials I wasn't using, but I thought would be neat, was rubber legs, and then everyone else said, oh yeah, we use them, so I will be adding that material in on mine. So again, I want to keep it about the same length as what I have for the white, and I'm going to tie that in. Oh. And so that's my tail. So basically it started with the amnesia line monofilament loop. After that, I put the white bucktail. I put some of the crystal flash in, then some of the mylar tape in there, and I finish off with the green bucktail on top. The next step would be foam, but I'm going to let Mike catch up to me, so I will stop here.
Okay. Okay. Let me change cameras real quick. And if it hasn't drooped again like it did a few minutes ago, not too bad. So the foam I'm going to use is tan, 2mm foam. I'm going to use, my tail is actually going to be a little bit of gold crystal flash, some red saddle hackle, and so first I'll go ahead and go back to the hook. Excuse me. And I'm gonna lay down a thread base. I'm gonna start a couple eyes back though. I'm using 140 denier thread. Again, it's a fatter thread, because the problem with foam, if you put too much pressure on it, you can cut it pretty easily. And that's pretty frustrating. The hook I'm using is a 2X long, size 8. And the thing about a gurgler that Mick kind of alluded to a little bit is it's not necessarily, you'll find a lot of recipes out there, but it's more a style of tying. You can tie them for salt, and they're a lot longer, whether they represent a shrimp or a bait fish on the surface of the water, making commotion. A fly like Skip's Predator is very similar to a gurgler. I did some flies. That might have been the first one that Mick joined us for, I think. There's a video in our YouTube channel with foam flies for bluegill, and it covers Skip's Predator, my version of the gurgler, which is kind of similar in shape and length to the Predator. And anyway, to get on with this, to cut the foam, usually I'll take the foam up to the hook like this, and use the gap of the hook. Like he said, you can do these in size 10 or 12 if you want. You can do them bigger in like 6s or whatever, but I'll mark the foam like that with the point of the hook. And then I'll just run the scissors up there and cut a length. So I have one cut here that was already in the package, and I'll use that. That's the right length for that size hook. I'll just set that aside because I got ahead of myself a little bit. We were going to start with the tail. So I'm going to take this saddle hackle, red saddle hackle, and find some, this is all kind of mangled a little bit, but I'll try to get some tips. I don't care if they're a little bit fuzzy and soft. I don't care if they move a little bit back there, but I want a pretty decent clump so it shows up. And my tail is a lot smaller. I used to tie a really long bucktail tail that was it wasn't as sparse as what Mick was tying on. There's a lot thicker clump of bucktail. And that was actually knocking the fly out of the way when a bluegill would try to take it. So I went to a much shorter tail. If I was doing a saltwater gurgler, I might go ahead and do a longer tail, because you've got a lot bigger mouth that's going to go after that fly. One thing about bluegill is they have a pretty small mouth, so I use a short tail. And another thing I do is I'll take that hook and just tweak it a little bit so there's a little bit wider of a gap. You got to be careful. Sometimes you can break the hook if it's not done right, but I just give it a little bit of a yawn there so the hook gap's a little bit wider. All right, so that's the red part of it. And now I'm going to put some gold crystal flash. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, because with crystal flash, when I first started using it, you see a lot of people do this. They'll take the whole tank out of the package, and they'll want a couple inches, so they'll cut about 8 strands off of there, about 1 inch long, and they'll use that in their fly. And then they'll come back and they'll cut another piece off of a different length. And you cut all those pieces, you end up with a mangled mess that is all different lengths. So if you take your package and just cut a little slit in it, and take the point of your scissors and reach in there and grab a strand and pull it out of there, you don't get your crystal flash all tangled. And you can take one long strand, they're about maybe 10 inches long, and fold it over. And I go ahead and cut the loop. Fold it over again. And try to line the tips up so you're not really wasting too much. This stuff isn't expensive, but you can really mess up a hank of this stuff pretty quick if you're just cutting it willy-nilly. And I got 4 strands that are about a couple inches long. So I'm going to go ahead and, like Mick, I'm going to wrap them around the tying thread. Oh, not yet though. Let me go back towards the back. Yeah, I'm going to wrap them around the tying thread. And when you do that with materials like this, hold them tight against the thread, you can place them on the far side. You can place them on the bottom if you want. Just using the where the thread is, you can place them exactly where you want. I'm going to put them on top right here. And just come back to the back there and then wrap forward over that. And again, I'm going to cut this fairly short. I want that to shine. I want that to stick up a little bit and be a little bit of accent on that red. And that's about the extent of my tail. So Mick, do you want to go with the next steps or you want me to go
Sure.
ahead? Okay.
Either way, I could probably go now, give you a little break. So, all right. So now I'm going to add the foam. Basically, kind of like Mike said, I do about, the gap is the size of the foam that I'll do, and I cut it a little bit long because this is a longer shank, and the way I put it in, if I need to trim it back, that's okay. So again, that's how I kind of size it up. But what I do a little bit is I'm just going to add just a tiny bit of super glue here. It kind of just helps hold it on just a little bit so it won't spin on me. Make sure that looks pretty even. Crank that in a little bit better. Just take off that tab. Now, in my previous one, I didn't do legs. Like I said, I'm trying to do make this look like a frog. I took some of just standard rubber legs, just green. I took off a strand of 3 together, tied them in a knot, and now hopefully you could kind of see. Wait, do I want to do that? Foam glue. Yes. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah. So I'm going to add in these legs. I was looking at my little cheat sheet. I didn't see my cactus meal. So sort of panic there for a second, but I'll be okay.
That's a good idea, tying it into a knot when you're doing
Yeah.
multiples.
Yep, tied in a knot, so it's going to kind of give the look of a frog leg.
Yeah, 'cause I got a whole bunch of that same stringy stuff, from a dress ball from Amazon.
And I could just kind of move it around. As you see, I'm going a little bit long with where I tied in just because I all that's gonna be tied up. Or covered with the cactus chenille, which I will put on next. I think I'm gonna like how this looks. So I got like a gold and green cactus chenille that I will put on next.
That is cool.
Yeah. Bring that right about there. I want to keep several hook eyes length. Whoops, let that roll a little bit on me. Reason why I'm putting a couple of half inches in there is because I will use the rotary device to get that chenille in eventually. Let's see if that will. Okay, it's working pretty good. Just wondering if I'd get the legs tied up. There we go. Just slowly wrapping in that end.
Great. Now I got to use rotary.
Yeah. I'm still like, I guess, a new schooler where I do like the rotary. And I think I'll call that good. Let's get cactus off. Lock that in. Okay. Now let's see if I can pull this foam over. Disturb those legs too much. There we go. That looks good. I will cinch that foam in. So I'll call it good for now because I got the main foam on. This look like I slid off the camera a little bit. I'll call that a good stopping point for now and let you get caught up.
Okay. We are doing this a little, we're really straying away from each other now. So,
Yeah.
all right. So for my body, I'm going to use variegated chenille. This is black and coffee. It's if you can find this stuff, pick it up. It's really good for Pat's rubber legs. But it looks good on this Gugler. And what I use for legs is these are actually bass skirts. They sell them about, I think there was maybe 4 or 5 in the package. Bought them at Bass Pro Shops. And there's probably, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 strands of different colors of rubber leg material. Let me use some of that for my legs. I'm going to use that variegated chenille for the body. And then for my foam, I'm going to cut a little bit of a point off camera there. And I'm going to come up here. I want a little bit of foam as an underbody. So I'm going to start towards me.
Change cameras, Mike.
Oops. I'm looking at my camera, so I think you can see what I see. Okay. So I cut a little like a V shape in the end of that. And then starting towards me, I'll pull real tight and let the thread torque put that on top. and then come back a little bit and just compress that with a couple wraps and just do some beads like this. Because if I compress all that foam, then I lose a little bit of flotation. Normally these don't sink, especially right at the beginning, but after you get the chenille waterlogged and they've got a little bit of fish slime on them, sometimes they'll start to sink. So I like to add as much foam in there as possible. So that takes me back. Maybe I'll go just a little bit more. And then I'll just kind of work my way back forward to actually to about this point. Now, I want to tie in my chenille. So I'm going to take the end of that chenille and just take my thumbnail and just pull away some of that stuff off of there. Not as critical on a fly like this, where you're not so much worried about bulk, but I just like to get in the habit of doing my chenille like that every time I use it. So that's tied down pretty secure. So I'm going to go up to towards the front here. My legs are actually going to be more toward the front, right about in here. So I'm going to take my chenille. Oh, I got to use my rotary, don't I? Let me go all the way forward. And put in a half hitch. Whoop. Now, zoom out a little bit. This is the Al Beatty thing. The bobbin cradle is called a bobbin cradle for a reason. If you stretch your thread out and hang it on there like that, like most people do, when you're done, you have to come back and roll up all that excess thread. If you just take your bobbin at your normal tying, maybe reach out a little bit and hang. I'm going to try to turn my vise. Just hang the bobbin on there. That should stay if you have it aligned properly. Just lay it over that, and that way, when you're done, your thread isn't all out of whack. So now I've got my vise so loose because I was doing sandy mites, and it's a long story. So my vise is wanting to turn with me here, but bear with the focus. Zoom in a little bit. I actually just want to go about halfway because I'm going to do my legs here. So move that out of the way. Come back. And just tie this with a couple wraps and just leave it hang. Maybe I'll actually put it back here in a clip. Get it out of the way. Then I'm going to take some of these barred rubber legs. I'll just take one strand, even the tips. Even the tips. There we go. Cut that. And then I'll just take both of these legs at the same time, actually. Wrap them around the thread. This has a little bit of gold kind of glitter in there. I'll just place them on top right now with a couple wraps. And then I'll take this far one and wiggle it around to that side. Take this one, and if you pull them like this and pull back and forth, you can move them around on the body there. Those are Let's see, this needs to come down a little bit. Few good wraps because they will pull those out. And then I'm going to move my thread forward. And because I'm going around those legs, I'm not going to do the rotary nonsense. I'll put one in between the legs. And then I'll come forward. To the front. And I'll tie that chenille off. Okay. And did you put your foam down, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to bring my foam forward. I want to go a little bit further back. And go right back against that chenille as tight as I can. Maybe clean this up a little bit. Won't really matter. And then I'm going to fold it over, starting a little bit towards me. Because the thread torque will take it back over. And I don't want to go too tight and cut the foam. I want to grab, see how I grabbed a little bit more of that foam right there? I don't want to just have the thread tight in one position. I want to kind of have a little bit of a band right there. And I'll actually come forward a little bit more. Okay, just about to the eye. Okay. And that's about where Mick left off. So we will call that good
Cool.
for now.
Back to me.
Back to you.
Back to me. So I'm gonna start wrapping thread up and underneath this piece of foam because I want to build that up because I want to make sure I keep that part up. So what I'm going to do is taking another piece of foam, I'm going orange this time. I'm going to add that in right here. For the next fly I do, it's actually more of a visual because it's a smaller fly, but this actually has a different purpose. This is going to help me keep this up to be part of that gurgler pattern. So as you see, this piece of foam right here, I'm just going to add a little bit of super glue. And I'm going to fold the lower green onto it, press in. And by going up like that, that piece of foam is going to prevent that larger piece from going down. So that's going to keep that up so you get that nice gurgler pattern. I'm going to do the same with the back, just kind of put this down. Helps it give a little squeeze that stays down. That looks good. At this point, I could actually start trimming up the front end.
Yeah, you can go ahead and finish it off.
Yeah, I could actually finish it off. I'll do
Yeah.
that right now. I'm going to use a little bit of Sally. Actually, no, I won't do Sally Hansen's quite yet. That's something I usually do, but I'll be able to get to a bunch of it. below. So I will do whip finish there. All that done. Now it's just to kind of getting how you want to decorate it. Try to round it off a little bit. Weird angle, but that looks good. So kind of finish it off with tying is I'm going to add a little bit of Sally Hansen's to the threads that I could see so that it doesn't come unraveled. Put some up on top and on the side. Now try to decorate this a little bit, as I said. It being fish won't see it, but if I'm gonna do this is a frog, I could kind of, if I want to decorate a little bit. But the one thing this was a cool trick that I was taught. Hopefully I could get that. I will do it on this upper leg. You could maybe zoom out just a little bit. I'm going to put a little tension to it. I'm going to spin it. Because Mike had the barred legs, but I didn't do that. But as you can see, I have it spun. I'm only going to color one side of that with the Sharpie. Then when I let it go,
Whoa,
oh, there you can kind of see. I don't know if you can see the
tricky.
barred. Didn't do the one side too well, but when you do a single strand, it looks real good. You could then bar it up. You can kind of see it there. So there you go. If you want to put a couple eyes or something like that, but just for fun. But there it is. There's my gurgler. And like I said, I've never done them with rubber legs before. So when I saw you guys, I was like, cool, I'll sneak it in. I did not plan this at all, but I kind of do like how the legs kind of flare out almost a 90-degree out. So when you pull it, they'll kind of hold back and then move forward like it's swimming. So again, didn't attempt that because mean that. It was just, this was the first time I ever tried this. And I was like, those will probably pull back when being pulled forward and then kind of sway forward. So it'll give a little nice frog appearance, but there you go.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, we'll put these side by side when we're done, and then we'll do the voting. All right, for mine, I do these different ways, but the way I settled on doing it is a little bit different than how Mick did it. I could cut the foam up here and then put the V in. I've done it the same way as Mick. But one way I like to do it is to actually do a little bit of a head like this. And it's a very similar technique. So I'll bring the thread back almost to the end of the foam there. And forgive the blood on the foam there, but I must have poked my thumb with the hook.
Oops.
So now I have a scented gurgler.
Yeah.
Yeah, flavor enhancement. So do a little bit more of a like exaggerated head right there. And then tie that down. Again, with a few wraps kind of spaced apart so that foam doesn't get cut. And so my head this way actually includes that V notch, but done a little bit differently. So where was here it is. Or super glue. I hate buying a big bottle and you use it a couple times and then it's the lid's super glued to the rest of it and you can't use it anymore. Well, they have these packages of little tiny ones. You can use them for quite a while, probably just about as long as you can use a full-size one. But you don't have to worry about losing a whole package. So I'm just going to take a little super glue down in that valley there. Set this aside. And then press it up forward. And that gives me a nice blunt face right there. I've actually got a little too much on there. Let me grab a Odkin. Where are you? Oh, I know where it is. It's upstairs. Let me grab.
Another hook.
Perfect. These guys. Get all that excess glue off of there. Stick a little bit down in that other valley down there. Just press that forward. That gives me a nice stubby blunt face there. And that's where you get the popping like a gurgler. Well, I'm just going to whip finish at the eye. My legs don't get in the way. That ought to be enough. Pull that tight. Cut it. And then I use a wee dab just to make it bulletproof of UV right here on the thread. Make sure I didn't get it in the eye. A little peacock curl. I think I did. Clean out that eye. That'll protect those threads there. And then these legs will foul in the hook band. So I do want them to be shorter. Take the front ones to about, it'd be nice for consistency. I'll bring it back to the tail. And yeah, that ends up being just about right. For these, I want to make them a little bit shorter because they're further back. There we go. I don't think those will foul. Yes, they will. Take another 1/4 inch or so off of those. Maybe make these match a little better. And there you go. And since he used a Sharpie, I got to use a Sharpie. Well, I'm going to come around here. Put a couple eyes on the front. And some dots on the back just for birds. And there is my gurgler.
You just need now a little smile underneath the front 2 eyes.
Yeah.
Almost.
There you go. That's a winner.
I was teasing, but yeah, that's cool.
There we go. The happy gurgler. Okay. Let me add spotlight. Now in the chat, does everybody know how to get to the chat? there's a link right at the top there. And if you click on that link, you should be able to vote. Let me know if you have any trouble with it.
Probably because I started late. I don't have a link, Mike.
Mick, could you rotate your fly so we see the profile, please?
We'll do the actual show where we're rotating them, but let me copy this. I can.
And Bill, the link is right on the, just click on the chat button and it just says voting link is here.
I got meeting. Okay, there we go. Now I got a voting link.
Okay.
So maybe since you weren't in before, it didn't show up, but
Yeah.
I've just copied it and repasted it.
Yep, I got her. Thank you, everybody.
Let me up my camera a little bit more here. There we go.
That it? No. A 357 Magnum revolver was found in that possession. Oh. I sure found. Just to refresh the court's memory, what powerful bullet was used to murder Jimmy Willis? 357 Magnum? The defense, yes.
Just vote on the first one. We'll do another fly here after this. And
Yep.
You know, I had a thought while you guys were tying that if you put a little bead of UV resin right above the hook eye, it would hold the foam up.
Wilber's testimony. The state like this is on charge.
that's a good point.
Yep. As in like right here.
Yeah, right in there, that would hold it up.
You got to vote and then hit submit.
I don't know if you could, I think you have to, if you do that, you gotta vote for both. The way I see it, it's,
I voted for just the top one and then I hit submit. So
oh, okay. Let me see if that works. Ooh, but see, then it disappeared on me for the other vote.
So we might have to wait and vote at the end.
Yep,
It might have let me do it because I own the form.
gotcha.
So
It voted a couple of times. You can be a Democrat.
yeah, that's
Yes.
true. I'll just vote for everybody else.
Vote early, vote often.
Right. And vote with dead people.
Yeah.
That's the joke where the guy, my father always voted Republican until the day he died, and after that he's voted Democrat ever since.
That's funny.
All right. So
Okay, great. We built your dream together and it's coming true.
if everybody can't vote, we'll go ahead and do the next fly.
Yeah.
You want to start again? Now I know we're going to be different because this is kind of a free. Uh-oh. We're actually close.
I'm doing a foam beetle.
I'm doing a foam beetle.
Let's see it.
All right. Let's do them up on mine.
Or do you have 3X glasses on to be able to see the thing?
These are, mine's a size 12, and it looks like the hooks are, mine's a clink hammer, because I love clink hammers with the foam beetles because that hook bend really sits down deep, and none of the legs or buggy parts end up blocking the hook set.
Mine is going to be a microphone fly.
There you go.
There you
That's
go.
what
Got rabbit fur all over it.
I've just got marabou all over the house.
Oh, well, I got the bucktail, so
Well, I don't really know what I'm going to be doing. I'm just kind of have a vague idea in my head. So
yeah, let's just start time. It
hopefully
looks like,
hopefully nobody will bleed on this one.
yeah, because it looks like we're getting close to the 7 o'clock anyway, so we'll
Yep.
just tying away.
If we get running a little bit too long and we have to go, then once you do your whole fly, and then I'll do my whole fly.
Okay.
Maybe it'll go faster that way.
Yeah, mine doesn't take long.
But if you have to go, we'll post it on the YouTube.
So put a thread base down. I use a little foam cutter with two-tone foam, orange and black. It looks like I'm gonna do orange down, but it's actually gonna be flipped over, so that's as a smaller fly, I'll be able to see this one. So it's keeping the black down. Ooh,
So the fish sees the black,
the fish
but
will
you
see
see the
the
orange.
fish will see the black. The orange is actually my
Right.
view to see it,
Right.
because this is on the small side and it can disappear pretty easy. All right. For the body, I'm using more of the cactus, but this is opal black. So it looks like almost kind of ostrich pearl, but this is a synthetic. Put a couple of half hitches in there.
If you put a couple of half hitches, isn't that a hitch?
Yeah, if I get to two, it's
Right.
it's a full half hitch. So here comes the buggy material. Put that off. Left my good scissors the other place. So just gonna wrap that in. Folder. Now I will kind of see if I could done like that buggy material was crowding the eye. All right, yeah, looks better. And now you can kind of see that the orange is on top. So easier for you to see. Fish still see typical beetle. I am going to use barred legs. These are actually like a micro is what they call it. It's very small and wispy. So I leave these a little bit longer. Actually provide nice little movement.
I've got some of that. It was sold as centipede legs. I think it was
Centipede.
hairline. I think it was.
Oops. I'm actually gonna, like you said, wrap it. This is so hard to kind of get moving. Yeah, it's very thin material. I like it because it wants to move. More. Wants to fight me a little bit. What I'm going to use is the end of my bodkin for a half hitch. Slipping off that. There we go. Thread off. That forward. Having a little bit issues with this legs, but oh well. So there is very quick, even though it's got a nice buggy bottom. By using a clean camera hook, that large gap will prevent any of the materials really preventing a hookup. So we'll see if I could. That's all
Excellent.
got on that. So
But nobody likes to have bugs in their bottom.
yeah. So that's it. Very quick.
All right. I will lay down a thread base. And mine is actually going to be a Japanese Beetle. I don't think I've done it like this before, but this foam I'm using is from Hairline Chocolates Loco foam in a peacock color. And that gives it that greenish blue. If anybody knows what the Japanese beetles are, we've got a lot of them here. I think about 8 or 10 years, well, yeah, about 10 years ago, they moved into this area. And in the summertime, they can be pretty thick.
And they eat everything.
Pardon me?
They eat about everything. Even my neighbor's spruce was
Yep.
chewed on by them.
Yep, they will eat just about anything. So I'm hoping that smallmouth and other fish like them too. So I'm gonna tie in my foam down there a ways. I think I want to go a little bit more, a little bit further back. That ought to be enough. And then for the body, I'm going to use reinforced peacock herl. I have about 9 or 5 strands here, which is actually 4. I'm going to cut off the top inch because that's always brittle and it'll usually break on you. Probably only need about 3, but if one breaks, I can. But wrapping it around the thread like this, it probably won't break. So I'm just wrapping it on the thread and then twisting. Make it like a chenille and reinforce it. And then I'll make a peacock body. And don't really have to tie that down since it came with the thread anyway. That much. Get that loose. And
Hey, Mike, you
then-
just twisted the peacock herl around the thread and then clockwise, then turned the thread at the same time.
Yeah, so I'll have to remember. I usually wrap it around the, yeah, so I think it's counterclockwise as if I'm looking at the thread.
Yeah.
Counterclockwise, I wrap the peacock herl around the thread, and then I give it a twist. I take my fingers and I twist the peacock herl so that it
Gotcha.
wraps, twists around it in a rope. So I want to have some legs on here. The legs I'm using are from that same bass skirt that I was using. And the black in there actually has a little green glitter in it. So it's not really barred, but it does have some green shine there. So I'm actually going to come back just a wee bit into the peacock there, like about right there. I'm going to actually snip them so I don't have that loop. Tie them in similar to how I did on the Gugler. About 3 or 4 wraps, kind of medium tension. And then I'll just grab this one to that side, this one to that side. And then bring those forward and come all the way forward to the front. Got my legs in. I'll just take that foam over. I'm going to try to hold these back with a clip if I can. Hopefully they will. Again, kind of lean it towards me so the thread torque will take it on top.
Beginner question. That clip is just like a little small hair clip then?
Yep.
Or okay.
I bought a package of them and I'll probably only use one for about maybe 10 years before it'll break probably.
Thank you.
Then take a few more wraps over that foam. It seems to want to twist. All right. I too will use a half hitch tool to make a half hitch, another half hitch, then a hitch, and another hitch. Now it's all hitched up. Flip that off. I'm going to make this kind of short. And then I'll shorten my legs slightly. And there is my just made up Japanese beetle.
That really looks like a Japanese beetle. Now, where's the bug spray?
Right. All right. So now you should be able to go and vote on both of these if I can focus on my fly here.